Hi. Just give people a bit of time to join the Zoom. This is not leaking. Oh. Okay. So you can join on Zoom. The Zoom link's in the description box below, or you can message and talk through the chat box. Ask questions to the chat box. Or you can ask questions in this chat box. Okay. So yeah, we'll just start the talk. And the title was right there, which is very helpful. You can see it immediately. So welcome. Okay, so the title is Isness is, life is, birth and death appear in this. So unless you've been involved in this subject for a while, you might, the word isness isn't used in general conversation. But if you are familiar with non-duality, you're familiar with that term, possibly isness. Isness, this is, life is beingness, aliveness, presence. This juicy isness. Juicy, very juicy. So normally humans are running around chasing after something, chasing after objects, chasing after things they believe will give it this isness, this aliveness, this presence. just this isness, this aliveness. We believe it comes from a particular thing. Like, if I go on this experience, I'm going to get this isness feeling experience. If I don't know, have this partner, I'm going to have this isness experience. If I have a nice meal, I have this isness experience. We're trying to seek for this isness, this aliveness, this enoughness, this fullness, this peace, this contentment, this wholeness, this joy, this freedom. And we seem to go around the world looking for this, dipping our toe in every experience. Is this it? Is this going to do it? It'll be this. It'll be this. Trying all these different things, trying to get that sense of completion, that sense of home, that this is this joy, this aliveness, this presence. And what's being spoken about in non-duality isn't that, well, it is, but it isn't that those things are bad or shouldn't be sought after or shouldn't be enjoyed. But it's what's being specifically spoken about is that those things are not going to give you what you want, this isness you're looking for in this sensory experience. The good news is what you're looking for is actually right here. It's right here. It isn't found in that particular object, person, experience. It's right here as the foundation of all experience, of all things. And that is good news. That is obviously good news. That's like the best news ever. What you're looking for and longing for is actually right here. It hasn't gone astray, it hasn't gone missing. You aren't in the wrong place or the wrong country or the wrong bodysuit or the wrong brain or the wrong education or the wrong circumstance. It's right here. It's right here. That is like great news. This is it. This is it. This is it. It's not lacking. It's not missing. I keep seeing I'm going to lower that. It's distracting me a little bit. And lower this screen. I can see my hands doing this in the other screen. It's distracting me. Thinking, who's that? Who's doing that? Okay, yeah, so yeah, what's being looked for is this. Is this. And so because there's been this looking for a particular thing, looking at qualities, looking at situations, circumstances, qualities of things, when this is spoken, that what you're looking for is here, is this, that same tendency to look for a thing. Oh, what is here? What is this? Trying to find a quality to this, a form of this, a border, object for this. That same habit of looking for something is then directed into this, trying to find a this as something. But this, what's being spoken about, isn't a thing, isn't a thing, isn't an object, isn't a thing. And that's why it can be all things, because it isn't a thing. It isn't limited and defined into a particular thing. And therefore it's free. Therefore it's unattainable. It's free. It's all things. It's all things. And so clearly, if this is talking about what is all things, then clearly who would find it? Who could possibly find it? Who would that thing be? Who would find this? If this is all things, who could be separate to find this? It's impossible, of course, because the one who thinks they're separate and finding it is also a thing. And remember, this is all things. So that can't be a true finder. That can't be the true, finder. So what is that finder? It must be this. It must also be this. There is nothing else but this, but everything, but all things. So this is like a waking up to wholeness, a wholeness waking up to wholeness. It's not a separate discovery. It's a waking up, but not for a separate someone or a separate object. Because that couldn't be true. It couldn't be a separate thing or a separate someone. This is all things. So this is, life is, isness is, it just is. The mind's always trying to get out of that and trying to let me get out and observe that and see that and know that as something separate over here, looking at it. And it's impossible. That could only be another part of this. And so this idea of being separate is a dream happening in this. It's a dream happening in this. I am separate, I'm living my separate life, I am doing this, doing that. That's appearing, but it's not true. It's not true. So this celebration, therefore, is that this is happening. Life is happening. Whatever you call this is. And we can have all ideas and theories and stories around it. But it doesn't change that this is. This is. And this is total celebration, total love affair, that simply this is. This is. This is like the original love affair. this is, like you can argue about, you can go to war about why this is, and you say this and this God and this thing and this thing and this thing, and we can argue about all the theory around why it is and who created it and what this is, but this is it's a true celebration without reason, without cause. This is, and any knowing about it, any like theory about it, it's okay, but it's not true. This is. The theory is, like, it's not true, it just is appearing. How beautiful. How beautiful. How beautiful. And so this is where things, form happens, the birth happens, the death happens, form appears and disappears here. It happens here. It can only happen here. This idea that I'm a separate person, I'm living for 100 years. That story happens here, appears here. That experience appears here, happens here. So beautiful. So beautiful. And the end of that story. This is where I think reincarnation, the idea of reincarnating, this is where I do relate to it, I suppose, is in the interpretation of it, as in, this is just my interpretation of it, my feeling towards it, is that it can be a way of explaining or describing the experience. So that there can be the memory of a lifetime that appears. And the idea that reincarnation, you've lived before and then you've returned as someone else, I can really relate to that in that sense. Like, all life stories happen here, appear here, they all appear here. But not as a personal story. So reincarnation is normally spoken of as, I personally lived before as, I don't know, let's say Henry or something. he was a pirate or something, and then now I'm living as Stephen, and I'm a plumber. Like, it's my life, it's my life. I was Henry and now I'm Stephen, and I don't necessarily see it like that, but I do can feel a resonance with that in terms of everything's happening here. So all the lives that seem to have happened appear here. All the storylines, all the narratives appear here. So the storyline of, was it Steve or Henry? Henry being a pirate, being on the 7 seas and all that, and his lifestyle, his pain, his happiness, his whatever happened, appeared. It seemed to appear, that experience of Henry, and then the body of Henry stopped functioning, and that story stopped playing in that body experience. The narrative of Henry stopped playing. The body stopped operating. And then, I don't mean then as in afterwards, I just mean then as in, like, the story of lifetime of Steve happens, but there was no one in Henry being Henry, and there's no one in Steve being Steve. This is, and the story of Henry and the story of Steve and the story of Emily and the story of Louisa appears here. So beautiful. It's so beautiful. I can't possibly describe it, but I get the feel of it. Like, it's not someone reincarnating or living. So beautiful. I was thinking of a soup, like a bowl of soup or a cauldron of soup, and all the ingredients are in it, and the water's in it, the liquids in it, and all the, like, different pieces of vegetables are in it. And it's like, that's how I feel. That's what I feel when I feel like a big soup. But it's like the liquid isn't the liquid's like, it isn't someone, and neither is the carrot or the peas. They aren't someone. They're just like characters or forms appearing. Yeah. Multiple forms appearing, but there's no one in them. You could say everything's in them, like it's everything's in them and nothing's in them. Yeah, like it's yeah, so beautiful. So the carrot will say, "Hi, I'm carrot. I'm hard, I'm orange," whatever it says, and then the pea will say, "I am pea," giving the impression that there is this separate character, this separate person, but actually it's not a separate person inside that pea or in the carrot. It's just the expression of it. Like in these human forms, it's the same thing. So in non-duality, we're collapsing the idea that there is a separate person. That narrative, that storyline is actually a truth, and it represents an actual someone experiencing all of those things. Like there's someone behind that. Because while it feels like there's someone behind it, it can feel very, well, it's suffering. It can feel very painful. very painful. And so this is where it's at. This is where it's at. And this isn't something that you believe and take on. Maybe that starts it off, believing in that and hearing it and liking it and believing in it. But it's this real discovery of that this is where it's at. This is isness, this life, what is happening. This is it. This is where there is that freedom, and that peace, or that end of that feeling of this isn't it. Yeah. Yeah. This is it. This is it. This is where joy is, and happiness and freedom. Also to say this is where you find pain as well. But this is where you find freedom. This is where you find freedom. And this freedom is beyond the pain and the pleasure. It's a freedom and a happiness and a joy beyond that. It's beyond whatever you can imagine. So beautiful. And this is what I mean actually by joy and happiness, not the happy and the joy, like, woohoo, pleasure, happy, that's great, but this is like beyond that. And that's why it's so happy. Because it's beyond that. It doesn't matter what's here, it's still free, it's still joy, it's still happy. So the human experience is pain and sadness and different moods and feelings, but this is true happiness because it's beyond happy, it's beyond that, it's beyond any feeling. So beautiful. It's just right here. It doesn't ask for anything, it doesn't need anything, it's just here, the birthright. Like it's, say there's a waking up in the morning, but this already is, it never slept. Like the human story goes to sleep and reappears, but this never went to sleep, and so it always just is. It always just is. It just is. That's what's so beautiful about it. The character comes up and disappears, but this is not, it's not in that reality of appearance, of form. Wow. So beautiful. Okay, so Samras asked the question on, let me just check on Zoom. No one joined in, didn't they? Okay, Samras, I have not yet found a way to describe it to my family, but folks, I wonder if there is a way to satisfy my people that it's not a mental condition. Oh, that I'm going through. So I would say not to mention it to them, but maybe you already have, and they're thinking you're mentally ill or something. But yeah, I would say not to mention it firstly, because it's just too. It's just too, maybe it's too strange or too obscure. It's too different to what they're interested in, or that they're thinking about, or that they're involved in. So I wouldn't necessarily mention it to them at all, really. But if you already have, then what could you say to satisfy that you're mentally okay? Maybe not mentioning it to them anymore. That might help them to move on from you mentioning it. So yeah, just carry on with how you normally talk to them about other things, and not use them as a sounding board for this subject. Find friends or other people you can talk to about it, which is hard, it is difficult in real life to have friends who are into this subject. But yeah, I wouldn't know how you would convince them you're not mentally ill, other than just not discussing it with them anymore. Yeah. Yeah. And who's to say what mentally okay is and what mentally okay isn't? I mean, we're all going by this group kind of idea of what being mentally okay is, but like who makes that true and that's the right way to be mentally okay? I mean, you have to have some standard of what's okay to do, you know, mentally healthily. But yeah, I mean, questioning that even to say, well, actually that's made up in the first place. So but I would just not talk about it to them. That's my main advice. Don't talk about it to them anymore. Probably the safest bet for you to reassure them that you're okay, not mentioning it. Maybe you could show them The Power of Now, quite a simple mainstream book that's touching upon this sort of thing. That might reassure them as well. Yeah. Tell them about mindfulness and another mainstream thing that's similar, kind of touching upon this. That could be a way to reassure them or educate them on this sort of stuff. Yeah. But that would be it. I wouldn't be trying to satisfy them too much around it. You know, if they aren't drawn to it, then they're not drawn to it, and simple as that, really. At least you're clear on your boundary with them, what you can and can't say, how far you can go with them and how far you can't, and you just adjust to that. Maybe you feel sad about not being able to share this with them, and you feel you're going to lose them or something if you go deeper into this subject. So you want to carry them with you into it, but you can't force other people to feel that resonance with this. They have to do or they don't, and if they don't, then you accept that. You can't convince someone into this attraction. So yeah, that's my input on that. Thank you for your question. I had to tell because I have lost interest in so many worldly things. They are observing me. They wanted an explanation from me about the change in my behavior. Oh. Yeah, that sounds really hard, actually. Difficult. Yeah, it's really difficult. I haven't really lived with people. Well, I have for a little bit, but he was also into certain different things anyway. He was open to different subjects like that. But if your parents and your family are in the same house as you, that's difficult to avoid approaching. Yeah, if they're observing you and watching you and questioning you, that's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult. That's really difficult. Oh God. Yeah, it's really difficult. As I was saying before, just show them some mainstream books on the subject, like mindfulness or the Power of Now, for example. And then limit how much you from now on share with them. If you can't move out into your own place for various reasons, and you're forced to live with them and be with them often, then yeah, it's difficult to hide that part of yourself and your interests and your behavior as it's changing. So yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't force it on them. I wouldn't force them to, get into it or learn about it. But just if they want to learn more, just say, look at this book or this teacher or whatever, and just to reassure them that's okay, and there are others who are into this subject, and you're not weird, or maybe you are weird, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, just show them, yeah, and then maybe limit it. Just don't talk about it anymore with them. Just try and keep it out of the conversation. If you feel you want to discuss it with them, then fine. But if you don't feel comfortable, or you feel like they're getting more and more scared by it, or I would say limit it. But yeah, you have to follow what you think is more suitable for your family and your circumstances. Yeah. So I wish you luck with that. I wish you ease with that. I hope you manage to reassure them enough to, like, in a way, leave you alone with it and not to interfere with it too much, or not to make your life difficult because of it, or yeah. Is video frozen? Is it really frozen? Let me just check. Has us saying it's frozen. Oh, it has. Oh, it has frozen. Oh, it's a bit jumpy. Oops, I'm not sure why it's like that. Oh, okay. Probably a temporary thing. Got low internet signal, it's saying. It's got 5G, but it's low. The bar is low. They were shocked when I told them that, yeah, a bit jerky, yeah. They were shocked when I told them that this world is a simulation. Of course, they would be shocked by that. Yes, of course. That's quite, yeah, I wouldn't, yeah. Then you have to ask yourself, why are you saying these things to them? Why are you saying that's to them? Like, are you wanting a reaction? Are you wanting to, like, you know, a family dynamic where you're trying to, like, be better than your parents or your siblings, and say that you know more than them, and this isn't real, and and do all that with your family? Yeah, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't. I just wouldn't be talking about it and saying it in that way as well. I just wouldn't. So yeah, I just wouldn't. But I think maybe these things happen and you learn from them. So maybe you will now go forward and learn that lesson about who you talk about this with. It's all a learning curve. Anyway, thank you. Any more questions? Thanks. I found myself. I found myself. Did you have an integration process? Integration process. Stuff going on in the body, etc. Integration process. It's funny because there's all different ways of answering that. So it's like, I'll just say them all. So, so it can sound like integration process as something that's happened, and then there's an end to that, and then there's something else. Whereas, so I could say, so I want to say like yes, but then I want to say it's not like, it doesn't like end. It's integration in a way is like, yeah, I can't see an end to that. That's one answer. But at the same time, the answer is also that doesn't make sense at all. Like, it doesn't make sense. Integration process, like it doesn't make sense. It's already into dream. It's already in the dream. So yes and no. Yes, there's integration that happens, but it's always like this is it. And like it's still happening in integration. Like all these thoughts and ideas that pop up. It's constantly like this is integration. Like none of these thoughts that pop up are someone's, so it's constantly integration. These old or familiar thoughts and familiar ideas pop up, and yeah, so it's always integration. It doesn't end. Then at the same time, like no, there is no integration. Like integration of what? Integration of for who? Like there's no integration. This is it. This is it. Like this is it. This is it. Oh, sorry, there's more. Like emotional purging or chakra dissolving experiences. Emotional purging. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, possibly. Lots of crying, laughing, pain, dread, lots of disbelief, lots of like what's that word? Like I could describe that. Like a like oh yeah, I can't put a word to that feeling, sorry, but yeah. Chakra dissolving, I'm not sure what that means, but lots of opening, I'd say, more opening than dissolving. More opening, maybe dissolving at the same time, I don't know. These words are funny, aren't they? Yeah, I'm sure these things happened. I didn't know what they were at the time. I didn't label them at the time. There was just life happening. And you can look back and say, oh, that was probably that, and that was probably that, and label it and name it. But there was literally just what's happening. And if that was an emotional purge, as you've called it, then that's what was happening. There was no putting it into a story. Oh, I'm now going through a purge of this or a purge of that. This means this means that. I'm now here, I'm now there. There was none of that. It's just what's happening. There was just what was happening. And describing it as this only comes as like a story afterwards, like, oh, that could be fitted into this storyline or this perspective. But yeah, it was just, yeah, the whole thing is just what's happening. We put these stories and these descriptions on it to communicate, but who knows what it was? Who knows what it is? Yeah, all the crap. Yeah, I'm sure stuff happened. Yeah, I'm sure there's stuff that's happened. Had the sexual awakening that happened, and the heart awakening happened, and I'm sure, yeah, these things, if you name it as that, then yeah, these things happened. But as I say, it's not in a storyline. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't, what you imagine it to be isn't what it is. It isn't what it is. We have this like forward focused idea about waking up and these things happening, and then this thing happened, and then this. It's not quite like that. It isn't like that. When you hear these speakers speak about it, like their shift or their what happens in their experience, in their story. It's like it sounds all neat and tidy and logical and in order, but that's not the experience here. Like it's not the experience here. I can relate to some of the descriptions of it, but it's yeah, it's not so logical here like that. I can appreciate people describing their experience, but yeah, it's just it's yeah, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Yeah. They make the human experience more pleasant, but they don't touch what you really are. They make the human experience more pleasant. What does? Oh, the energetic crap releasing or something. Oh, okay, but they don't touch what you really are. Well, yeah, nothing touches what you really are. I mean, everything is like that. Whatever happened is just what's happening, and it's not changing who you really are, or touching who you really are. Like it's yeah. What makes the human experience more pleasant isn't necessarily these things happening, but it's just this dissolving back into what is. This yeah, this comfortability, this dissolving back into your naturalness, your yeah, yeah. I think that some fears keep me bringing back to my human version. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. So a certain fear will pop up, an idea will pop up, and it's believed and held onto and looked through as if that's a someone, that's a me, a person. Yeah, yeah. That seems to be the way it is, the way it plays out. There's a triggering, a triggering. And it may feel like you've lost something when these triggerings happen. Like you've lost that peace, lost that home. But it really isn't true. That triggering is actually showing something, showing a false idea, a false belief. It's showing a part of yourself really that is totally okay, totally lovable, totally okay. But maybe has that the energy and the belief in it and the repetitive belief in it and the repetitive energy in it that this appearance, this trigger is actually true and it's me, and it means something, it's important, and I have to get rid of it, or, you know, resolve it, dissolve it, deal with it in some way. Or I've lost home, I've lost this love, this wholeness. So yeah, it's a great chance to see the illusions and the dreams that have been believed in. I had Kundalini awakening. It happened many years ago. Fear, shame is a big one for me also. Becoming naked, it can feel like, yeah. I didn't really know what it was, surprisingly. It went dormant after a few weeks. Then it came back a few years back while watching a video of an enlightened master. Yeah, I don't really know about that stuff, but I don't really have much interest in it. Not to be rude, but I don't have much interest in it. Like, what's interesting here is what is happening. It's what is happening. Not a special phenomena or a special experience, or, I mean, they are what they are. They can be enjoyable, but it's not going to last. It's an appearance. Appears and disappears. So freaking beautiful. What you are is beyond that appearance and disappearance. Okay, so I'm going to end the stream there. Thank you for your questions and your interactions on the chat. Yeah, so thank you, and I shall return with the next stream. Yeah, next Thursday. Thank you. Okay. Bye. I have to wait, because if I realized if I say bye and end the stream, the YouTube's behind. So if I end, it cuts off. Yeah, so yeah. That's why there's a long pause there, but I've spoke again. I have to pause now and let you catch up, and then I have to end the stream. So I'll stop talking now, and I'll see you next time. Bye.